What's up, everybody? Welcome to Clutch's Corner, the spot where we break down the watch list for the next day. So I've got this broken into like two different parts, the small cap tickers, the large cap tickers. We'll go over the small ones first. Nice juicy failed two here on AAL. And price targets are going to be coming from the high of this candle right here is the first one, right? Now I know that there seems to be like a big jump between here and here, but this is where the first one is because we have the gap down and then the huge push down. And as you can see over here, it couldn't get beneath it. It had so much trouble finally getting beneath it. So next time we come up to here, there's going to be an algorithm there. Then we can see the bouncing between these two algorithms. The top of this one is going to be the next spot for a potential price target. Then the top of this too, where we can see all of this chopping through, looking to the downside off of, looking to the upside off of this price right in here. Then we have the top of this, which I believe is the previous day's high right in here. And beyond that, we have the final price target, which is the top of yesterday's high. Moving on into gold, we have a 3 followed by a failed 2. So we know that this is giving a rev strat. And with the rev strat, we're looking forward to break to the upside and come test the other top of it, with price targets being found starting on the 30-minute time frame at the top of this one right in here. In the top of this failed 2, where you can see it wanted to push back up to the upside, but then it just didn't have the juice. And with this wick right here, we can tell that there's definitely going to be something there, especially with the fact that we couldn't quite reach it here. And then we wick through it here. Then we have the top of this 2 with the wick through and the wick through, and then of course the high of 3. So gold is pretty easy as well. AAR, or excuse me, AAR, just AR. This is like a grocery thing. It had this impressive wick to the upside and then crashed back down. And wouldn't you know it, we came and wicked right off of the same exact point over here. And we're pushing back to the upside. What does that mean? It means there's an algorithm here that used to push to the downside that now looks like it's pushing to the upside. Good old algorithm switch on the daily time frame, pushing it to potentially the high of this candle. That's just because of range. That's why I extended past just yesterday's high. And then, of course, look at all this choppiness in here. The top of this 2 coincides with the top of this 1, which also coincides with the bottom of these candles. Algorithm number 1 right in here. Fail 2 right in here. We're going up, stopped, and immediately pushed to the downside. The 3, this 2, and this 2 couldn't really stay above it. They didn't have the juice. This didn't have the juice. This didn't have the juice. Swing high right here, right? So right in there is that next PT, then the top of this failed 2, where these swing highs are taking place. And then beyond that, the high of this day. C is going to be the last one on the small tickers. And hey, relax. It's going to be the last one on the small tickers before we get into where some nice real big money can be made tomorrow. The top of this 2 right in here is going to be the first PT. And as you can see, there's all of this going through it, right? So it sucks that it's like 13 cents away or whatever it is, but there's clearly a wall right here, an algorithm that we have to break through. Once we break through that, we can come test the top of this 3, which as you can see is above most of these, but also wicking off of the same exact 2 right here. And then all of these are looking to the top side off of it. So this is a very important area. Top of this 2, the top of this 1, where these things are all wicking through it. And then of course the high of the day right up in here. So C looks really great too. It's I think out of like all the smaller cap tickers, I like C, gold, and AAL the most. I do like AR. It's got like much more range to cover before it hits entry, as opposed to the other ones do not have as much entry to cover, or as much range to cover before it hits entry. All right, moving on to Apple. Now, this is something I'm very excited for tomorrow. As we can see, the trend line here was pushing us to the downside. We did end up breaking it. However, we immediately started pushing back to either come retest this, or it could be a false break of the trend, and we might be wanting to come right back to the downside. Props if you notice that this is actually the filling of the gap. where the gap got really close to being filled here, but actually didn't quite fill. It took this day to actually fill the gap. All gaps over time do like to be filled, and then that happened yesterday, and now we might see it continue in the direction that it wants to go to the downside. There is a large amount of price targets because, let's face it, this is a huge range for it to cover. It's much more abnormal. This candle is much more abnormal. So like if we start tomorrow, like this is the maximum range that we have based off of this candle with if entry starts at where it closed. However, if we consider this candle, the range, right, from the top to the bottom of this, and you move that over, then you can see we extend even farther past that. So it's kind of like a mixture of both, and getting it a little bit farther out from what its range could be, but also not ignoring everything that is within its range too. Zooming into the 30-minute, we can clearly see this first spot right here. This is where PT1 is going to be, where all of this is chopping through it on the upside and pushing back down. Now this is chopping through it from the upside and pushing back up. After that, we'll test the bottom of this two, which wicks off of, wicks through, wicks through, wicks through. Important spot. Then we'll reach the bottom of this three, and most threes do have a algorithm in the high and lows of them. That's what made them a three in the first place. And I'm not putting the PT here, I'm putting it right here, because right here is where we can see it's closer to wicking through all of these candles over here and then beyond over here as well. So this is just a much more cut through spot, right? And the fact that it's gone through there more tells me that that's more than likely where the algorithm is, as opposed to right here where it didn't quite touch in all of these spots. Bottom of this one, where all of this chops through, as you can see, right? All of these wicks going through it means that it's triggering the algorithm a little late, pushing back up, triggering it a little late, pushing up, pushing up, pushing up, pushing up, finally broke through, finally pushing back up, finally breaking through. And then when we get to this spot again, we're going to have to make the same decision that we made over here and which way do we want to go. After that, we'll test the bottom of this two and then the bottom of this two. And that's just some really classic steps. But props if you notice that this is the top of the algorithm over here, the bottom of it here, and this is the bottom of the algorithm over here. Yeah, I really like the way the Apple looks for tomorrow. Tesla, moving on to Tesla. This is pretty much the exact same, so I'm not going to break it down because it was in yesterday's video and hardly anything has changed. A 10-cent entry has changed and a 10-cent stop loss has changed. Price targets are exactly the same. So what I will say is that just because it breaks the daily entry doesn't necessarily mean I'm going to jump into it. I actually would want it to break the 174.70 because 10 cents is not enough for us to make any money out of Tesla. Let's just be honest. And so I don't want to take it here and then see it reverse here. I want to see it break here, and then it can drop the dollar to PT1, and then the price targets are exactly the same as the previous video. Moving on into QQQ. I love the way this one looks. This is my favorite actionable signal of all time. Now, I wish that it didn't gap and that it started here, came down and ended as a failed two, but I'll take what I can get, right? And the fact that this is a beautiful failed two, it's closing the gap. There's no gap here anymore. And it is continuously pushing up in this direction, which means that we can come test the top of the one and the top of the two. We move to the 30-minute time frame. You can see where price targets are coming from. The top of this two, where this three wicks through. Right here, just ding, ding, kind of bounces through it really quick. And then also over here is where these two candles are kind of deciding what the heck they want to do with the push up. And then it's trying to push back down. And then finally, oh, okay, boom. Right in here in this area is where that's going to be 1, 2, 3 candles all wick off of this price right in here. So we're not ignoring that as our next price target. And of course, we have the high of the then I went to the 5. And you're going to see why I went to the 5, because when I went to the 5, you can see where the top of this algorithm is, which is also like the bottom over here. The top of this algorithm is also the bottom over here. And then we have the high of the day. So by zooming in, I could see a little bit more to the upside of where these choppiness areas are going to be, and being able to identify those as potential price targets and where it chops through the most. So QCOM looks really good. I'm very excited for QCOM tomorrow, honestly. And then we're tailing things off with MA. MA is bouncing off the exact same spot here, here, over here. It is liking to stay above this area. The last time it did, shot to the freaking moon, said oopsies, came back down, tested this area all over again, and then we're shooting right back up with even more force than we had here. So what will tomorrow look like if this was the next day after the last time it bounced off that algorithm? That being said, this is also my favorite actionable signal. Now, this is what I wished QCOM looked like, meaning that it started here, broke down, broke the one, became a 2-1-2, respectfully took out its price targets, and then said done, and then came right back up and ended this failed two. Without it having to gap, it created that failed two. And I like this play probably the most out of everything. I will be praying tonight that this thing does not run away from us tomorrow and start at the last freaking price target. Like some of the plays, I think it was Crowd did today. You know, it literally started at its final price target. What can we do, right? So hopefully this one waits for us to catch the bus, so to speak, right? With price targets being found at the top of this one, with good golly, Miss Molly, look at this sideways action here, right? So because of that, there's going to be tight price targets along the way. That's where this one comes in, this one comes in, and this one comes in, because we are literally going sideways through all of these areas. After we break through that, we'll come test the top of oh, it's a 2 day. I was like, what just happened to my chart? Okay. I had the 2 day chart on accident. So back in the day. Then we have the top of the one, the top of this two, and in between that, going to the 30-minute to see where this contention could be. And it comes from right in here. We can see all of this kind of going sideways through it. This is going to be where that middle price target is between the high of the day of two and the high of the day of the one. One being here, two being here, middle of that. So awesome. I hope that there's a play out here that you guys really like. Obviously, if you notice, MA is in full time frame continuity. QCOM is in full time frame continuity. When this breaks to the downside, Tesla will be in full time frame continuity. Apple will be in full time frame continuity. So really looking forward to these plays. I hope that you all are as well. God bless. Thanks for being on the other side, and I will see y'all tomorrow.